All right, today we're diving into a really exciting investment opportunity, and it's happening in one of Asia's fastest growing megacities, Dhaka. We're going to break down exactly how some investors are pulling in an incredible 8% rental yield. And it all comes down to one specific type of property that's in super high demand. So let's get right into it.
So it really all boils down to this one number, 8%. I mean, think about it. In a world with all sorts of market ups and downs, an 8% annual rental yield, well, that's something that makes you sit up and pay attention. The big questions then are pretty obvious. Where is this return even coming from? And maybe, more importantly, is it actually sustainable? So let's just frame this whole explainer around a simple question. What if you could get on in this opportunity? We're going to show you exactly how this is playing out right now in Dhaka's absolutely booming market for serviced apartments. Okay, first things first. To really get a handle on this opportunity, you have to understand what's happening with housing in Dhaka right now. There's a new reality taking shape. The old school, traditional rental market, it's being completely shaken up by a new model, one that's all about convenience and flexibility. You know, what used to be a tiny niche market just for foreign execs has totally blown up. It's now a mainstream solution for a huge, diverse group of renters. And this is way more than just slapping some furniture in a flat. It's a direct answer to how Dhaka's economy works now and how its workforce is always on the move. So why the big shift? What's driving this whole thing? Honestly, it boils down to just one word: convenience. I mean, in a city as bustling and, let's be real, as congested as Dhaka, your time and just having things be simple, that's the real luxury. And the old way of renting is just packed with headaches. And this right here, this lays out the choice for renters today perfectly. On one hand, you've got the old way. You've got to hunt for furniture, deal with setting up all the utilities, and then you're locked into these long, inflexible leases. But on the other hand, you have the serviced apartment model. You literally just walk in with your suitcase and everything, I mean everything, is ready to go. It's a completely different ballgame. And get this, it's not just about being easy. It's also way cheaper, especially when you compare it to the main alternative for medium-term stays. For anyone who's in town for more than a couple of weeks, a serviced apartment is usually 3 to 4 times cheaper than a hotel. Plus, you get so much more space and, actual privacy. It's a no-brainer. So, who are all these people flocking to this new way of living? Well, that's what makes this market so strong. The demand isn't just coming from one little group. It's this really diverse mix of people. And that's what creates such a stable, sustainable foundation for investors. Let's break down who they are. First up, you've got your high-end tenants, the expats, the foreign professionals. They need top-notch, secure places to live. Then there are the corporations and NGOs. They figured out this is just a way more efficient way to house their staff on projects. You've also got a really important group, non-resident Bangladeshis, or NRBs, who need a solid, reliable home base for when they come back to visit family. And last, but definitely not least, you have this massive, fast-growing demographic of students and young professionals. For them, it's all about affordability and convenience. So you see, it's this mix that makes the whole market so solid. Okay, so we've established there's strong, diverse demand. That's great. Now, let's put on our investor hat. How do you actually get into this market and aim for those top-tier returns? What's the playbook?
Well, like with any real estate, it all comes down to location, location, location. And in Dhaka, the market is split pretty clearly. You've got your premium zones. We're talking Gulshan, Baridhara, Banani. These are the big corporate and diplomatic hubs, and they command the highest rents. But then you've got these really interesting emerging areas, places like Bashundhara and Uttara, which are driven by things like universities and being close to the airport. Where you decide to buy is going to shape your entire investment strategy.
Now, if you just pull up the citywide data, you get a decent overview of rental costs. You can see the baseline here, right? Everything from an affordable studio all the way up to a fancy 2-bedroom and a prime spot. But this is really just scratching the surface. And that brings us to a really, really crucial point. Those citywide averages, they can be seriously misleading. If you want to find the real opportunities, the ones with the highest yield, you've got to look past these broad numbers. And here's where it gets interesting. You'd think, right, that the biggest, most expensive, most luxurious apartments in the fanciest neighborhoods would give you the best returns. I mean, that's just common sense. But that's not what the data tells us. Not at all. The real sweet spot for investors is somewhere completely different. Okay, take a look at this. This chart tells the whole story.
Let's start at the bottom. See those large luxury units? They give you pretty respectable 4% yield. Not bad. 2 bedrooms bump you up to 5%. 1 bedrooms? Even better. You're looking at a solid 6%. But the real story, the big reveal, is right there at the very top.
And there you have it, studio apartments. They are the undisputed leader, hitting that magic 8% yield. The reason why is actually pretty simple. These smaller units cost a lot less to buy, but they pull in really strong rents because the demand from students, young professionals, and single corporate renters is just through the roof. They are the absolute engine of this market.
So that's the picture for 2026. But what happens next? Where is this all heading? Is this just a flash in the pan, a temporary trend? Or are we looking at a permanent, fundamental shift in how housing works in Dhaka? Well, the trends are pointing in a pretty clear direction. First, compact living is only going to get bigger. As affordability becomes more and more of a factor, these smaller units will dominate. Second, having professional management isn't going to be a nice little bonus anymore. It's going to be the bare minimum, what everyone expects. And third, things like smart home tech will be what separates the standard properties from the premium ones. That's how you'll stand out. This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? This isn't some fad that's going to disappear in a year or two. The serviced apartment model has proven its worth. It's now a fundamental, permanent piece of the puzzle of how Dhaka lives, works, and grows. And that really leaves us with one final thought. As a megacity like Dhaka keeps growing and modernizing at this incredible pace, has this whole model, convenient, flexible, professionally managed housing, moved past being just a good option? Is it possible that it's now simply essential?